Hello again, welcome to the first show in 2016 for Portsmouth This Week, the voice of Portsmouth Town Hall. Our guest today is our boss on this show and also our town administrator, Rich Rainer. Rich, welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks, appreciate it.
Great having you back. You've been in the job for about 6 months now, and I know it's kind of early, but how is everything going from your perspective?
It's great. I'm a people person. As I like to tell my staff and the folks I've been meeting around town, I got the best job in Portsmouth. I get to go around and talk to people. And of course, I don't mean to be flippant about it, but it's just like being a captain again. You know, I was a captain for many years. I was captain of a ship. I was a commodore of a squadron. I've had lots of command, and it's the same principle. As I explained to the council, I think at one point, if you look at it from the perspective of a captain has to answer to the Admiralty, has to answer to the staff, and then has his crew, it's the same concept. I've got the departments, DPW, fire, finance, police. Those are my departments, parallels directly related to what I experienced in the Navy. And then I answer to the council. And I have to take into account stakeholder opinions, views, desires, expectations, and those are all the committees and all the interested parties around town. So it's the exact same thing. I'm loving it.
That's great. Yeah, I remember when they came out with that management concept of management by walking around, and I said, hell, we've been doing that in the Navy forever.
Exactly.
That's kind of the way we did things there.
Yeah.
What do you see to be the major issues facing us like this year going forward?
There's a lot of things. I presented to the council a couple meetings ago kind of a list of my proposed priorities, and one of the things I've had to do in this job is kind of temper my view and my expectations for moving forward. And what I mean by that is you get drilled into your head in the Navy to take a strategic view of things, and at the municipal level there tends to be a more tactical view and a more short-sighted horizon. Not that that's a bad thing, but I keep looking 5-10 years down the road, and the council, I think, is really looking for me. You know, what are you going to give to us in June? So really, the major issues I'm looking for, you know, I presented is in excess of 10 pages of things that I think I'm going to be working on, because I have an expectation that I'll be here for a while. I have no unless you know, unless we part company, I don't plan on going anywhere. So I'm taking a very strategic view towards things. But to answer the question and answer the council, I think obviously in no particular order. I got a number of labor contracts to settle. We just finished fire. There's a few dotting of the I's, crossing of the T's to take care of. PMEA. The town clerks, I think we just finished that, so we'll be, and the council has approved that, so those are two major items. We need to implement and now that it's been approved, we need to implement the wastewater management ordinance, which is going to be a bit problematic because people have been
inspecting septic systems.
Yeah, so I mean, I think even though there was a very strong vocal element in the town regarding you know, the whole septic versus sewer issue, there are many more people in town that were just kind of strap hangers or just maybe observing it from afar or not observing the issue at all, and these notices are showing up in their mailboxes and they don't know what the heck to do. Absolutely. So we're in the implementation phase now, and that's going to be that's going to be a growth experience for Portsmouth. I think final resolution of the wind turbine. As contentious of an issue as that has been, I think the way forward now is to ensure that this gets implemented to the maximum benefit and at maximum benefit to the most people as possible. There's a number of measures that the contractor is taking. He has reached out to the abutters. He is reaching out to the people affected by the flicker zone. We are implementing measures in the operation of the wind turbine. It's a more modern turbine, more efficient. It will be able to be turned off during greater periods of the year, or times during the day, so we'll be able to mitigate those effects that really bothered some people. Because it's more modern, it has a sleeker silhouette, so it's not as short and stubby as the one that we have now. So I'm looking at it as, from a positive perspective, and I think that it'll be a good thing for the town moving forward. We need to, there's an initiative to kind of look for ways where we can continue cooperation and consolidation efforts between the town and the school. So I'm looking to kind of solidify some of the gains that we've had there, and I have a very good working relationship with Anna, the school superintendent. We meet once, we probably meet about once a week, because we have our own meetings ad hoc, and then she's also invited to my staff meetings, which are held the day after every town council meeting. And we constantly walk into each other's offices when there's an issue that comes up. I think a big one, obviously, that is going to be right up, this literally is something that is closest to my door at this point in time, is the comprehensive plan. We need to resolve this. There was an expectation that this would be done in 2015. The town planner has the lead for this. The town planner has been bogged down with the wind turbine, wastewater management ordinance, Rhode Island TIP, a number of other projects that I won't say they're in cruise control, but we have finally resolved the major issues regarding those items, and he is now totally focused on a comprehensive plan, and we've brought on board an assistant town planner. He is now reaching out to the town, the various committees, getting their input. So I just had a meeting with him before coming here. The goal is still to get that out by June. Now, when you back that up, to get it out to committees, to get it out for review, to get stakeholder input, now we're talking really kind of March time frame is when people are going to start seeing bits and pieces of this.
Okay, so it is in track and it's moving. You know,
absolutely.
One of the problems has always been the town planner, and certainly Gary Crosby has been like a one-man band down there, and he's trying to do. He has to do a little bit of everything. I mean, he's at the center of just about everything we have going on. Yeah,
and we realize that, and so there have been a number of things that we've been able to do to kind of expand that. He is now at the department head level. We brought aboard, he starts full-time February 1st, an assistant town planner, and in response to the wastewater management issues, we now have a wastewater management officer. So that has cleared his plate, so he can now start focusing on the big ticket management issues that we pay him to do, and I think we're going to reap great benefits.
You know, one thing I want to mention, and you already mentioned this, and before we get past it, these labor contracts have got to be tough, and what makes it even tougher, I think, is we've got tremendous fire, police, and DPW guys. I mean, these guys are out there all the time. I can't say enough about any of them. Yeah. And it's just got to be tough having to deal with this. But I think everybody also knows we don't want to fall back into this thing of not being able to fund fully their pensions. You know, so. Yeah,
and you know, it has come up. I mean, I've been through 2 rounds now. They were nowhere near as contentious as I thought they were going to be. There obviously are bumps in the road in any negotiation. But we go into it with 2 adages. One, what is best for Portsmouth? And then the other is, you can't walk the dog backwards. We are not going to go back to the types of defined benefits that were in existence in the past. We can't do it. So we have to look for alternatives. And I do have to say, so far in my negotiations with the fire and PMEA, and I expect the same will happen with the police and DPW, they know that, and they're working with the town to come up with contracts that are good for both of us. And that's my going-in argument. I'm not going in as an adversary, but I do go into these negotiations with the #1 rule on the table. I'm going to do what's best for Portsmouth. That's my charter. And when you broach it that way, you automatically get buy-in because these guys and you know, all these guys and girls, they're looking for what's best for Portsmouth too.
Yeah,
in the end,
they're definitely a big part of the community
so
here.
involving them in the discussions up front, socializing ideas ahead of time, it works. At least that's what works for us so far.
Yeah. I didn't mean to interrupt your train of thought. If you had some additional...
No, there's so many other things. I mean,
I want to try to touch on it, but...
Capital improvements to town property. Town hall needs some improvements. I want to continue with and grow the rec department idea. And if you want to know where I'm going, we have a part-time rec director. He's an Army of One. He replaced the previous guy. The job was too much for him. It's not so much that it was too much for him, but he had other...
Tim Dunbar?
Tim Dunbar is in as the rec department. He replaced Bob Campion. But Bob he is a vice principal of junior high.
So he was kind of occupied.
So at the time when Newport was going through their teacher negotiations process, so it just became too much. So he stepped down. Tim Dunbar stepped up to the plate. He's doing a great job. But we need to advance this further. So if you want to know where I'm going, take a look at Bristol. They have a world-class recreation department. We are where Bristol was 20 years ago. I don't want to wait 20 years to get that far, but we also have, I don't think we have to, because we have a lot of opportunity and we have a lot of property that Bristol didn't have in the beginning. And to this I'm referring specifically to not just our little parks around town, but we have the Glen Farm properties. We have the 70 complex, we have the Glen Farm stables, we have the Lower Glen. So there is a lot of opportunity to do great things with a rec department that is not focused solely on sports.
Well, I applaud your attitude of even considering to look at other towns as an example, because you're exactly right. I mean, there are other towns that are doing it well, and those are the ones we should try to emulate and see how they do it.
Another one is, I know that this was started before I got here, but it stalled. We don't have employee handbooks. We don't have standard operating procedures. And I think that was fine when Portsmouth was a small town. Now, Portsmouth still is a relatively small town, but we're not a small town anymore. This isn't just a farming community anymore. We have over 100 people on the payroll. So I am going to focus on that. I have a meeting next week with the town administrator in Tiverton, who just hired a company to do this for Tiverton. They have new SOPs, they have a new HR manual, they have a new employee handbook, and as I refer to it, you know, back in my master's degree program day, yeah, you can get in trouble, but plagiarism is the best form of flattery, and he's already paid the cost to have it done. And he's willing to share that with Portsmouth, so I can get that project moving forward.
That's great.
And then we touched upon the Glen Farm properties, but I don't want to leave Prudence out of the mix. Prudence, the road project in Prudence, and what's probably affecting them, or at least on their minds right now, is the proposed ferry rate increase. And we'll have a meeting with the concerned citizens over there on the 23rd to address this.
Yeah, that seemed to come up as a surprise to everybody. It seemed like...
You know, people will say it came up as a surprise, and you know, yes, I'm a relative newcomer to the process, but I think that the company from the outset, when I look at the documents, did say that they were going to operate for a certain period of time, perhaps a year, to get a baseline, and then they were going to come back in for rate increases. Yeah. I think what has everybody concerned is the extent of the rate increase. It's essentially double, from what I understand. So we're looking, you know, we become a party to this process, and I think if we have any influence, we will look for ways to perhaps a Prudence Island resident gets compensation, not compensation, but gets, maybe there's a rate for permanent residents versus a rate for tourists versus a rate for contractors, so on and so forth. But I think that there's probably wiggle room there, but I don't know that for sure. But
so the town's involved in this discussion?
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are. Okay.
Yeah.
I expect that coming up soon, I'm sure you've already done it, but you'll be looking at the budget and budget issues. I hate to raise that,
No,
but it's there.
yeah.
It's like the elephant in the room.
It is. It'll be my first bite at the apple. And I've heard everything from it's no big deal to this is going to be the worst 4 months of your life, and the sky is going to fall. But it's going to be in the middle somewhere. I think the job of the town administrator is to present an actionable budget to the council, but at the same time, I've got to temper the expectations of my departments who think that they're going to get a lot more money than is available, and also solicit the buy-in from stakeholders in town who think that any increase in the budget is tantamount to the end of the world. So the answer has to be somewhere in the middle. Now, Portsmouth did have a zero-rate increase last year. We could do that in part to a couple things that are no longer available to us now, but prices still continue to go up. Yeah. Fuel costs have gone down, but that has not reflected in other areas. So there are things that have to be done, and there are things that were put on hold. We do have capital improvements we need to look at. Police cruisers, fire trucks, snow plows don't get younger in a year's time. Yeah. The wear and tear on that equipment still continues. So we do have to come up with a plan that is more long-term than just, all right, we got through the budget this year, thank you.
Yeah, we can't keep kicking the can down the road.
No. So there are things that we're trying to implement. A long-term phased-in replacement. We come from the Navy. I come from a culture where you have planned maintenance, you have phase replacement. We have some equipment in town that is, and it's fine, that has been used and abused for decades, with no thought process as to what we're going to do to replace this. There has to be some kind of plan, and you can't plan in a bubble, and you can't plan if you don't have the money to do it. So yes, I am going to come in with a budget that I believe is fair to the town and actionable, but there are probably going to be, I'm probably going to request a modest increase to cover the fact that we had no increase last year, and there are long-term projects that need to be addressed.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I'm one of these citizens that believes we need to pay for what we get. And I was appalled, for example, when our infrastructure, our roads weren't even looked at for 2 years. I'd rather have a tax increase and have good roads and have decent facilities than not. I think we're going backwards. And from what I've seen, there's not a lot of waste in government anymore.
No, I think that there's always going to be somebody that thinks that there's probably some kind of devious plan. Every penny's accounted for. One of the things that I've asked finance to do, I want to establish a more transparent and open window into the finances of the town. We have an accounting software program that we've been using for a while. It's proprietary. The people that run it are no longer in business, so we're transiting to a more modern tax accounting method, or finance accounting method and software program. Once that is in place, and we anticipate that will be in place within the next 6 weeks, we've been working on it hard now for a couple months, then I would like to be able, now the books are cleaned up, everything is in the right spot, now I can go ahead and one of the things we're looking at is if you go into Middleton's website, they have an OpenGov. We're looking for something like that. The finance director has come up with another idea where people can write their own budget and see what it does. So you see that, well, if you think your idea is a good one, plug it into the numbers that are available to the town and see if we're green or red. And I think it's a great idea. So it will, if you have an idea, you'll have the numbers to back up your idea, or you won't. But the numbers should be available to everybody. And then I want to transition that into more open transparency into town hall. Yes, anybody can come in, they can get public documents, but it's not an easy process in the sense that it's paper.
Yeah.
I want to digitize records, and I want to get those things, at least, my idea is a link on the web where people can do searches and get the information they need. Every time somebody comes to town hall and requests information, documents, there is a process for that, but it does tie up clerks' time, and the more documents a lawyer asks for, the more time it ties up. I would like to make it so that you want documents, they're right there. Push a button, execute a search, everything is there. There's nothing hidden.
I think that, and also being able to pay online is for all these different things.
Absolutely. I was, one of the things I was asked when I first got here, I was very shortly into my term, and one of the council members asked me, what do you see as the biggest problem so far? I'd only been here for a couple of weeks, and boy, I didn't expect that. And I had just taken, it was about my third or fourth tour of the town, and I said, infrastructure. I later on replied that was a little bit too quick. It's really more, the infrastructure is a symptom of a vision, a lack of vision. But one of the things that struck me is I'm walking in a town hall and we're paying in a mail slot our bills. Everywhere else in the world.
The transfer station sticker right now.
Transfer station stickers, you go to the window, but we should be able to do that online. I can go on Amazon, I could buy a drill press and have it delivered to my door the next day, and I never stepped out of my house. But to pay my taxes by a transfer sticker, those things, I got to get in the car, I got to drive across town and get to town hall if they're open. Another thing that we're going to do is I want to make town hall more accessible to the citizenry. Many times I work late, and I cannot count how many times somebody's come knocking on my door, 5 o'clock, 5:30, 6 o'clock, looking for somebody in town hall. Well, town hall essentially shuts down. The planners, or the building inspector shuts down about 3:30. Other offices shut down at 4 o'clock. The tax office shuts down about 4:30. That doesn't work for me. So we've negotiated into the PMEA contract, and hopefully it'll be ratified, extended town hall hours, at least 1 day a week. Let's try it and see if it works. We can always go back. I'm not sucking up more hours of people's time, then we'll shut down early 1 day a week. But another day of the week will be open later. Let's say 6:30 in the evening. Now people aren't rushing to get to town hall, and then they find out the building inspector isn't there or the tax collector isn't there. It'll ease that frustration. So that's
well, even the Portsmouth Historical Society now has PayPal, so you can go online and pay your dues or get your membership. So you can use that as a lever.
Yes, I will.
One of the projects coming up, the big one, is the new police building. What's the status of that, and what are we going to see this year?
Well, the architectural drawings are essentially done, from what I understand. We've now started test bores of the site to see where the foundations are going to go, what's in the ground. And then the big ticket item is going to be the referendum. Are people going to approve this or not? So it will be up for a vote. It's going to be about a $10 million project. I know that there's going to be a lot of interest in this, and I anticipate a lot of support, but there will probably be a lot of opposition too. So my big project this year is obviously to champion the cause for the police department. I firmly do believe we need a new one. I've been over there many times. We have outgrown that building. And I know that there are going to be people watching this right now that disagree with me, but let's have a conversation about it. Let's do the right thing for the people that are doing the right thing for the town. They're crawling all over each other, that we need a modern police department. I'm not talking about building a Sistine Chapel. I'm talking about building a modern police department that is adequate for the size of the police department that we have, and incorporates room for growth, but also incorporates room for citizen involvement. I can increase the size of the Citizens Police Academy. There will be a conference room in there available to anybody in town. We can do training there. We can have meetings there. This is going to be a plus for the town.
Well, as you say, we're not a little farm town anymore.
No, we're not.
So We definitely need somebody like that. We're getting short on time already.
There's so many things I want to talk about.
There are a couple things I really wanted to ask you about.
Sure.
One of them was the DOT and their backing up on the Transportation Improvement Plan, apparently taking our East Main Road issue off the table for a few years. Is there anything we can do about that?
Yes and no. The one big win is that it is still in the tip. There was big upheaval at RIDOT, and they went from they went from one timetable to another. They called us in for a meeting. We discussed the tip, and we discussed that project specifically. So I think we'll see movement on it. Now, it probably won't be in the time frame that we had expected, but it still is in the tip.
Yeah.
And they are talking to the town. The big ticket item with regard to that East Main Road down, from Town Hall going down to Clements, discussion of the roundabouts, discussion of a median, discussion of crosswalks, discussion of widening the road, and discussion of sidewalks. As much of that is still going to be incorporated, the idea of having three roundabouts is probably not feasible or even needed. But there will be a roundabout, I think, down by Clements.
Yeah.
We'll make that intersection better. There will be sidewalks, and there may not be a median down the entire road, but there will be medians and pedestrian safety zones at crosswalks, and we're asking for a minimum of 4 crosswalks.
Okay, so we keep the pressure on through our
Absolutely.
legislators. Another issue, we've got a new business director, Rich Zalipsky, our own Rich Zalipsky.
Absolutely.
And I just wonder if you gave him any priorities to work with. What are your thoughts?
I did.
We got less than a minute here.
Okay, I'll just list some of the things that I had asked Rich to start working on. Revitalization of the EDC, our Economic Development Committee. I want to keep the business gains that we've had over the past. I don't want to lose businesses that are already in town. I want him to help me look for ideas for public-private enterprise with the Glen Farm Stables. I want to get into discussions with Raytheon. What can we do to help utilize that property and develop that property at Raytheon? And I want his help in the comprehensive plan. And then lastly, I want him to remain tied into the big organizations on Aquidneck Island, i.e. AIPC, Newport Chamber of Commerce, Discover Newport, and then the various committees that we have working for us.
Well, let me tell you, I think you've got the perfect guy for the job. But,
so do I.
But I'm prejudiced.
I'm prejudiced too. I really like him. He came to us with a lot of experience. I'm looking for somebody that understands business plans, that understands the community, that has been involved and understands grants and grant writing, and understands what's important for Portsmouth. And his experience as being involved in the community as one of the organizers for the 375th, being a prior chair of the EDC, so important for this job. And I think the town is really in a good position if we were able to get him on board. I wish I could have got him on board full time, but
do what you can.
We're gonna use you, Rich.
We're out of time here already, and I just want to thank you for coming on the show, and I hope you'll come back
I will.
maybe in 6 months and you can tell us how all this stuff went.
Right, perfect.
But thanks so much for coming. Just want to make a few notes here before we conclude. One, I have to report the passing of a real stalwart in the veterans community, George Wardwell. He was our parade chair for the 375th celebration, and a really great guy, and he's well thought of by all the vets on the island, certainly including me. Also like to remember that the Portsmouth Historical Society membership drive continues. We sent out a letter to all residents in Portsmouth. You can still join by either going online or using the form that was in the letter. And I'd also ask people to go to our Portsmouth Historical Society survey, which is on our website, which I believe is up on the screen now. That's it for me. We'll see you next week or next time on Portsmouth This Week. Thank you.